Ambassador Crixel stood at the observation window of the Galactic Council station and watched the human ship dock. His 3 hearts beat faster than usual. In his 200 years of life, he had never felt such fear before a diplomatic meeting. "They are early," said his assistant, a young Velthan named Sarai. "The humans are always early." Crixel nodded slowly. His blue scales shifted color to a darker shade, showing his worry. "Yes, they move fast. Everything about them is fast." The human ship was not beautiful. It was not elegant like the curved vessels of the Aldari, or massive like the sphere ships of the Kronth. The human ship looked angry. It had sharp edges and thick armor. Small weapons lined its surface like teeth. Even when it was just floating there, it looked dangerous. "I have read the files again," Sarai said quietly, "about their homeworld." "Earth," Crixel whispered the word like it was cursed. "Yes, Earth." Sarai's voice shook a little. "The survival officers have classified it as a Class 7 Deathworld. The highest rating before a planet is considered completely uninhabitable." Crixel had read those files too. He had read them many times, and each time he found it harder to believe that any intelligent species could have evolved there. Earth was a nightmare. The planet had unstable weather that could kill in minutes. It had massive storms that covered entire continents. The temperature changed wildly from place to place. Some areas were so cold that water turned to solid stone. Other areas were so hot that the very ground could burn flesh. And then there were the other creatures on Earth. Millions of species, and so many of them were deadly. Predators with sharp teeth that could tear through metal-hard bone. Tiny, invisible organisms that invaded bodies and killed from inside. Plants that made poison. Insects that spread disease. Even the water held creatures with hundreds of teeth. How did humans survive there? How did they not just survive, but become the dominant species? The answer was simple and terrifying. Humans were the most dangerous thing on their death world. The airlock opened with a hiss. Crixel straightened himself and tried to control his color-shifting scales. He had to show confidence. He was representing the entire Galactic Council. 2 humans walked out. One was a female named Sarah Chen, the official ambassador. The other was a male named Marcus Webb, her security officer. They wore simple clothes in dark colors. No armor, no visible weapons. They walked with an easy confidence that made Crixel's scales shift darker again. Ambassador Chen smiled. Her lips pulled back to reveal her teeth. Crixel knew this was supposed to be a friendly gesture for humans, but seeing those teeth still made him uncomfortable. Human teeth were designed for tearing meat. Humans were predators, evolved predators from a world of nightmares. "Ambassador Crixel," Chen said. Her voice was warm and pleasant. "Thank you for meeting with us." "The honor is mine, Ambassador Chen," Crixel replied through his translator device. "The Council welcomes Earth to these negotiations." They walked together through the station corridors. Crixel noticed how the humans moved. They did not walk the way other species did. They moved with a strange smoothness, always watching, always ready. The security officer, Webb, kept his eyes moving constantly. He was looking for threats, always looking for threats. This was what Deathworld species did. They never stopped being alert. They never stopped being ready to fight or run. "The Council has reviewed your request," Crixel said as they entered the meeting room. "You wish to join the Galactic Trade Federation." "That is correct," Chen said. She sat down at the table across from him. "Earth has resources to offer, technology to share. We believe we can be valuable partners." Crixel looked at the human woman carefully. She seemed so calm, so controlled, but he knew what humans were capable of. The Council had watched Earth for 200 years before making contact. They had seen human history, wars that killed millions, weapons that could burn entire cities, humans fighting and killing each other over and over again. And yet they kept going. They never stopped. They never gave up. This was perhaps the most frightening thing about humans. Other species would have destroyed themselves long ago. Humans kept surviving, kept adapting, kept getting stronger. "There are concerns," Crixel said carefully. "Some members of the council worry about human aggression." Chen's smile did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. "We understand those concerns. Earth's history is not always peaceful. We have made mistakes. We have done terrible things to each other." She paused. "But we have also done incredible things. We have overcome challenges that would have ended most species." "Yes," Crixel agreed. "That is what worries some council members." Webb, the security officer, spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and rough. "You're worried because we survived a Deathworld. You're worried about what that means." Crixel did not answer right away. The human had understood perfectly. "My people evolved on Velthan Prime," Crixel finally said. "It is a gentle world, warm and stable. The weather is calm. The other creatures are mostly harmless. We developed intelligence slowly over millions of years in safety." He looked at the humans with his 4 eyes. "Your world tried to kill you every single day, and you evolved to fight back. You evolved to be dangerous." Chen nodded slowly. "That is true. Earth made us what we are. We cannot change that, but we can choose what we do with it." The negotiations continued for 3 days. Crixel learned more about humans during that time. He learned that they needed to sleep every day, but only for a short time compared to other species. He learned that they could eat almost anything organic: meat, plants, even things that were slightly poisonous. Their digestive systems were incredibly adaptable. He learned that humans healed faster than almost any other species. A wound that would take a Velthan months to recover from would heal on a human in weeks. And if healing was not possible, humans would simply remove the damaged part and replace it with mechanical devices. They treated their own bodies like machines that could be fixed and improved. Most disturbing of all, Crixel learned about human endurance. Humans could not run as fast as many creatures, but they could run for hours, days even. On their homeworld, humans had hunted by simply following their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They called it persistence hunting. They would chase an animal until it died of heat and tiredness, while the human just kept going and going. On the final day, Crixel had to make his recommendation to the council. He sat alone in his quarters, thinking about everything he had learned. The humans were dangerous. There was no denying that. But they were also curious, creative, and surprisingly kind. Ambassador Chen had noticed that Crixel was uncomfortable with the station temperature and had arranged for his quarters to be warmed. A small gesture, but meaningful. Perhaps, Crixel thought, being dangerous did not mean being evil. Perhaps Earth's harsh conditions had given humans not just the ability to destroy, but also the determination to protect. He began writing his report. He recommended accepting Earth into the Trade Federation, but he also added a warning. The galaxy should not try to threaten humans. It should not try to harm them or cheat them, because if humans decided the galaxy was their enemy, nothing would stop them. Earth was a death world, and humans had turned that into their greatest advantage. 10 years after Earth joined the Galactic Trade Federation, the galaxy began to truly understand what humans were capable of. And it started with a crisis that no one expected. The Kronth Empire attacked a small colony called New Haven. It was a mixed settlement, with humans, Velthans, and several other species living together peacefully. The Kronth had claimed the planet belonged to them based on ancient territorial laws. When the Council rejected their claim, they attacked anyway. The message reached Earth within hours. The colony was burning. Thousands were dead. The survivors were hiding in underground shelters, waiting for rescue that might never come. Ambassador Sarah Chen was in the middle of a diplomatic dinner when she received the news. She excused herself, read the message on her device, and her expression went completely cold. Other diplomats who saw her said later that it was like watching a star go dark. "How long until Council forces can reach them?" she asked her aide. 3 weeks minimum. The nearest fleet is dealing with the border dispute near Aldari space. 3 weeks too long. The survivors would not last 3 weeks. Chen made a call. It went to Earth, to a special department that most of the galaxy did not know existed, a department built by people who remembered what it meant to survive a death world. "We have a situation," she said simply. "I need the Rapid Response Division." On Earth, a man named Colonel James Okonkwo received the call. He was tall, with dark skin and gray hair at his temples. His eyes were calm and steady, the eyes of a man who had seen many terrible things and learned to keep moving forward. "How many survivors?" he asked. "Approximately 12,000, mixed species, heavy Kronth presence in orbit and on the ground." Time frame: 26 hours before the Kronth complete their sweep operations. Okonkwo did not hesitate. "We will be there in 18. This should have been impossible. The fastest ships in the galaxy took weeks to travel that distance, but Earth had been busy during its 10 years in the Federation. Human engineers had studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They had asked questions, taken things apart, put them back together in new ways. And they had made improvements. The human ship Persistence was not like other vessels. It was named after that ancient hunting technique, the one that terrified other species, and it lived up to its name. The Persistence could travel faster than any known ship. It pushed its engines past limits that alien engineers said were absolute. It burned fuel at rates that would bankrupt most planets. Humans did not care about efficiency when lives were at stake. They cared about results. 18 hours after the call, the Persistence dropped out of faster-than-light travel above New Haven. The Kronth fleet was waiting, 20 warships, heavily armed, confident in their victory. Colonel Okonkwo looked at the display showing enemy positions. His tactical officer, a young woman named Lieutenant Park, highlighted the threats. 20 Kronth cruisers, standard formation. They are not expecting anyone to arrive this quickly. "Good," Okonkwo said. "Let us use that surprise. Begin attack pattern Delta 7. The Persistence carried 300 soldiers. Against 20 warships and thousands of Kronth ground forces, this should have been suicide. But human military thinking was different from other species. Other species fought to not lose. Humans fought to win. The ship did not engage the enemy fleet directly. Instead, it dove straight toward the planet, moving so fast that the Kronth could barely track it. It took hits from several weapons, but its armor held. Human ships were built tough, like the humans themselves. They reached atmosphere and released drop pods, 300 humans falling toward the planet at incredible speeds. Each pod was designed to survive entry and deliver its passenger safely to the ground. Another piece of Deathworld engineering. Other species thought the concept was insane. Humans thought it was efficient. Colonel Okonkwo was in the first pod. He felt the heat of re-entry around him, felt the violent shaking as the atmosphere tried to tear his pod apart. He breathed steadily and checked his weapons. "All units, report status," he said over the communication channel. Voices responded. 300 soldiers, all alive, all ready. They hit the ground hard, pods cracking open, humans emerging into a battlefield. The Kronth ground forces outnumbered them 10 to 1. The Kronth were large creatures, twice the size of humans, with tough hide and powerful limbs. They were born fighters, bred for war. But they had never fought humans before. Colonel Okonkwo led his forces toward the shelters where survivors were hiding. They moved fast, faster than the Kronth expected. They did not stop to rest. They did not slow down when they got tired. They just kept going. The first engagement happened near a burning building that had once been a school. 40 Kronth soldiers were positioned there, thinking they were safe. They did not know that human soldiers trained to fight in conditions far worse than this. Burning buildings, poisonous air, extreme temperatures, all normal for Deathworld warriors. The Kronth died quickly. Human weapons were precise and deadly. Human tactics were brutal and effective. But more than weapons or tactics, it was the speed that shocked the enemy. Humans attacked before the Kronth could react, moved to new positions before return fire could find them, and attacked again. Within 3 hours, Colonel Okonkwo's forces had secured a path to the survivor shelters. They had lost 14 soldiers. The Kronth had lost 400. In orbit, the Persistence was playing a different game. It could not destroy 20 warships alone, but it did not need to. It just needed to keep them busy. Human pilots flew in patterns that alien computers could not predict, taking risks that alien commanders thought were certain death. They survived anyway. Barely, but they survived. And then reinforcements arrived. Not council ships, human ships. 3 destroyers that Earth had secretly been building, using technology that combined the best of human engineering with adapted alien designs. They came out of faster-than-light travel already firing. The Kronth fleet was destroyed in 2 hours. On the ground, Colonel Okonkwo reached the survivor shelters. The door opened, and he saw scared faces looking up at him. Humans, Velthans, others, all of them had expected to die. "Rescue forces from Earth," Okonkwo said simply. "Everyone is safe now." A Velthan child approached him slowly. The child looked at his armor, at the weapons, at the smoke and fire visible through the door. "You came for us, from Earth." Okonkwo knelt down so he was at the child's level. His voice was gentle now, all the hardness gone. "Of course we did. That is what humans do. We protect our friends." The child reached out and touched his armored hand. "The other adults said help would not come in time. They said we were going to die." "Other species say a lot of things are impossible," Okonkwo replied. "We stopped listening to that a long time ago." The news of New Haven spread across the galaxy like fire. 300 humans had defeated thousands of Kronth. A single ship had held off a fleet. 12,000 people were alive because Earth had done what everyone said could not be done. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. Ambassador Crixel was there, along with representatives from every member species. The mood was strange, a mixture of relief and fear. "How did they do it?" asked the Aldari representative, a graceful being of light and crystal. "Our projections said rescue was impossible." "Your projections were based on your capabilities," Crixel said quietly, "not human capabilities." But the speed of their response, the ferocity of their attack, the willingness to take such risks. The Aldari flickered with confusion. "It does not match any known military doctrine." Crixel thought about his conversations with Ambassador 10 years ago. He thought about what she had told him about Earth, about survival, about what it meant to evolve on a world that wanted to kill you. "Humans do not fight by our rules," he explained. "They fight by the rules of their homeworld. On Earth, hesitation means death. Caution means death. The only way to survive is to act fast, hit hard, and never stop moving." He paused. "They do not think rescue was impossible. They think impossible is just another word for difficult." The chamber was silent. Then another representative spoke. "What does this mean for the Federation, for the galaxy?" Crixel's scales shifted through several colors as he considered the question. Finally, he spoke. "It means we have very dangerous friends, and we should be grateful they are friends." The Kronth Empire demanded revenge after New Haven. Their leaders were furious. They had been humiliated by a small human force, and their honor demanded blood. They began gathering their entire military for a massive invasion of human space. Ambassador Sarah Chen received word of the threat during a routine meeting. She read the intelligence report carefully, then set it down on her table and sighed. "They think 300 soldiers was all we could send," she said to her aide. "They think we were desperate, scraping together everything we had." Her aide, a young man named David, nodded. "That is what they told their people, that we won by luck and trickery." and now they are coming with a real fleet. Yes, 5,000 warships, 50 million soldiers, the largest military force in Kronth history. Chen stood and walked to her window. Outside, the Galactic Council station floated in peaceful darkness, stars shining in the distance. Somewhere out there, the Kronth were preparing for war. How long until they reach our space? 4 months, maybe less. Chen closed her eyes. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people living there who had no idea what was coming, about the colonies on Mars and Europa and the other human settlements spreading across their home system, about all the progress humanity had made since joining the galactic community. And then she thought about human history, about the times her species had faced extinction and refused to die, about the determination that had carried them from caves to cities to stars. "Contact Earth Command," she said quietly. "Tell them to begin full mobilization." David's eyes went wide. Full mobilization, ambassador, that has not happened since the resource wars 2 centuries ago. "No," Chen agreed, "it has not, but we have never faced a threat like this before." She turned to face him and her eyes were hard. "The Kronth think they know what humans are capable of. They saw 300 soldiers and think that is our limit. They are wrong. They are very, very wrong." On Earth, the message reached every nation, every city, every home. The words were simple and clear. Humanity faced war, not a war of choice, but a war of survival. An alien empire was coming to destroy them. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Within 1 week, every factory on Earth had been converted to military production. Ships, weapons, armor, supplies, all being made at incredible speed. Human factories did not stop. Workers did shifts around the clock. When one group got tired, another took over immediately. Within 1 month, Earth had produced more warships than it had possessed in all its previous history. These were not elegant vessels. They were brutal and efficient, designed for one purpose only: fighting, surviving, winning. The volunteer stations were overwhelmed. Millions of humans lined up to join the military. Old and young, men and women, people from every nation and background. They came because Earth was in danger, and that meant everything to them. A Velthan observer named Scholar Tenex was on Earth during this period. He had been studying human culture for academic purposes. Now he found himself watching something far more important. "They do not argue," he reported to the council in confusion. "There are no debates about whether to fight, no political discussions about the best response. They simply act together as one species." He watched a group of volunteers training in a park. They were ordinary people: teachers, farmers, merchants. None of them had military experience, but they ran and climbed and practiced with fierce determination, driven by something he could not understand. "On my world," Tenex said, "such unity would be impossible. We would spend months discussing strategy, years deciding on resource allocation, decades building consensus." He paused. "Humans do not have that luxury. They evolved to respond to threats immediately. Hesitation on Earth meant death, so they do not hesitate." The Kronth fleet entered human space on a cold morning in January Earth time. 5,000 warships, stretching across space like a dark cloud. 50 million soldiers, ready for conquest. The largest invasion force in galactic history. They expected an easy victory. They had studied human military strength. They knew Earth had only possessed a few hundred ships before mobilization. They calculated it would take years for humans to build enough vessels to match them. They were wrong. The human fleet that met them was 3 times the size of theirs. 15,000 ships, built in 4 months by a species that refused to accept impossible. Behind that fleet were another 10,000 ships still in construction, almost ready to join the fight. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the command ship Determination. She was Ambassador Sarah Chen's older sister, and she had spent her entire life preparing for moments like this. Her crew was ready. Her fleet was ready. Humanity was ready. "Open a channel to the Kronth command," she ordered. The enemy fleet commander appeared on her screen. He was a massive creature, covered in battle scars, clearly a veteran warrior. His name was War Leader Groth, and he had conquered dozens of worlds in his career. "Human," Groth rumbled. "You surprise us with your numbers, but numbers mean nothing. We are Kronth. We have fought 1,000 wars. We will destroy you." Admiral Chen looked at him calmly. "You have fought 1,000 wars against species from gentle worlds, species that evolved in safety, species that think war is something that happens sometimes between periods of peace." She leaned forward slightly. "For humans, war is not an interruption. It is what we were born for. Our world tried to kill us every day. Every creature, every disease, every storm. We survived by fighting. We became what we are by fighting. War is not something we do. It is what we are." Groth laughed, a deep sound like grinding rocks. "Words. I have heard many words from dying species. Show me your actions." "Very well," Admiral Chen said. "All ships engage." The Battle of the Outer Reaches lasted for 3 days. It was the largest military engagement in galactic history, and it changed everything that other species thought they knew about warfare. Human ships did not fight like other vessels. They moved in chaotic patterns that alien computers could not predict. They took damage that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. They coordinated with perfect timing, attacking from multiple directions at once, overwhelming enemy defenses through sheer aggression. And when ships were lost, human crews did not surrender. They aimed their burning vessels at enemy formations and accelerated, turning dying ships into weapons. Other species called this insane. Humans called it making every death count. The Kronth fought hard. They were warriors, proud and fierce, but they had never faced anything like this. Human aggression matched their own. Human determination exceeded their own, and human adaptability made every tactic they tried useless. On the second day, War Leader Groth watched his display showing fleet positions. Red markers showed destroyed Kronth vessels. There were so many red markers. "They do not stop," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "We destroy one ship and 2 more take its place. We break through one formation and another forms behind it. They just keep coming." Groth said nothing. He was beginning to understand something terrible. The Kronth were a warrior species. They loved battle, lived for conquest, but they fought because they chose to. They fought when victory seemed possible. Humans did not fight because they chose to. They fought because that was what they were. Victory or defeat did not matter. Odds did not matter. Humans would fight until they won or until nothing was left of them. There was no surrender. There was no retreat. There was only war, endless and total. On Earth, it was called all in. Humans did not know how to do things halfway. On the third day, the Battle of the Outer Reaches ended. The Kronth fleet had been reduced to fewer than 500 ships. 12 million Kronth soldiers had died. War Leader Groth himself was dead, his command vessel torn apart by human missiles. Human losses were significant. 4,000 ships destroyed, 2 million soldiers dead. But the surviving human forces were already regrouping, ready to continue, ready to pursue the retreating Kronth into their own territory if necessary. Admiral Chen looked at the battlefield on her display. Debris from thousands of ships floated in space, both human and Kronth. So much death, so much destruction. She thought about her sister, the ambassador, about the peaceful future Sarah had worked so hard to build, about the human dream of joining the galactic community as partners, not conquerors. "Communications," she said quietly. "Open a channel to the remaining Kronth vessels." The display showed a frightened Kronth officer, clearly not prepared for command, the new leader of what remained of their fleet. "This battle is over," Admiral Chen said. You have lost, but we do not want to destroy your species. We want peace." The Kronth officer stared at her in confusion. "Peace? After all this, you would offer peace?" "Yes, this is what we do. We fight with everything we have. And then when the fighting is done, we try to build something better." She paused. "This is the other thing about humans. We do not just know how to destroy, we also know how to create, to heal, to forgive." The channel was silent for a long moment. Then the Kronth officer spoke, voice trembling. "We accept your offer. The Kronth Empire surrenders." The treaty between Earth and the Kronth Empire changed the galaxy. For the first time in history, a species had won a war and then helped their enemy recover. Human aid workers went to Kronth worlds. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed facilities. Human doctors treated wounded Kronth soldiers. Other species watched in amazement. They could not understand why humans would help an enemy that had tried to destroy them. Ambassador Sarah Chen explained it at a council meeting, 2 years after the war ended. "We learned something on our Deathworld," she said. "We learned that survival alone is not enough. What good is winning if you become monsters in the process? What good is strength if you use it only to destroy?" She looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of species. Some had been afraid of humans. Some still were, but many were beginning to understand. Humans evolved to fight, that is true, but we also evolved to cooperate, to build communities, to care for each other. She smiled slightly. On Earth, the groups that survived were not always the strongest. Sometimes they were the ones who worked together best, who helped their neighbors when times were hard, who shared food when resources were scarce. Crixel, the Velthan ambassador, spoke up. "You are saying that human aggression and human compassion come from the same source?" "Yes," Chen agreed. "They are both survival traits, both products of our Deathworld evolution. We fight hard to protect what we love, and we love hard because we know how easily things can be lost." The following decades were called the Human Integration Period. Earth's influence spread throughout the galaxy, but not through conquest, through trade, through technology, through cooperation. Human persistence hunters became the best rescue workers in the galaxy. They could track lost travelers across hostile terrain for days without stopping. They could carry injured beings incredible distances to reach medical help. Human engineers redesigned systems that had remained unchanged for thousands of years. They asked questions that other species never thought to ask. Why does it work this way? Can we make it better? What if we tried something completely different? Human doctors combined Earth medicine with alien knowledge and created treatments for diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. Human immunity, forged in the fires of Earth's biological warfare between species, gave them insights that sheltered species had never developed. And human soldiers became the peacekeepers of the galaxy, not because they loved war, but because they hated it. They had seen what war could do. They had done terrible things in battle, and they wanted to make sure no one else had to experience that if possible. The Rapid Response Division that had saved New Haven became the Galactic Emergency Response Corps. Human commanders trained soldiers from dozens of species. They taught them to move fast, think clearly, and never give up. They taught them the Deathworld lessons that had kept humanity alive. Colonel James Okonkwo, the hero of New Haven, became the first director of the Corps. He was an old man now, his hair completely gray, his body marked by scars from a dozen battles, but his eyes were still calm and steady. He gave a speech at the Corps Academy graduation ceremony, watched by beings from across the galaxy. "I have fought in many battles," he said. "I have seen good people die. I have done things that haunt my dreams, but I have also seen survivors rescued when everyone said it was impossible. I have seen enemies become friends. I have seen my species go from one small world to partners in a galactic civilization." He paused, looking at the young faces before him. Human, Velthan, Aldari, even a few Kronth. all of them wearing the core uniform, all of them ready to serve. Earth was a death world, Okonkwo continued. It made us hard, it made us dangerous, but it also made us determined. It taught us that survival is not given, it is earned, every day, every moment through struggle and sacrifice. His voice grew stronger. That is the gift we share with the galaxy now, not our weapons or our aggression, our determination, our refusal to surrender, our belief that nothing is impossible if you are willing to work and fight and bleed for it. The graduation ceremony ended with a tradition borrowed from Earth military customs. The new graduates threw their caps into the air and cheered. Humans and aliens together, celebrating their shared achievement. Watching from the audience, Ambassador Chen felt tears in her eyes. Her sister, the Admiral, was there too, now retired, enjoying peaceful days after a lifetime of war. "We did it," Chen whispered. "We really did it." Admiral Chen Wei nodded slowly. "Not just us, all of humanity, and now all of the galaxy." 50 years after first contact, Earth's transformation of the Galactic Federation was complete. The old structures of cautious diplomacy and slow progress had been replaced by something faster, more adaptable, more alive. Human energy had infected every institution, pushing them to do more, try harder, reach further. The galaxy expanded into new territories at a rate that would have seemed impossible before humans arrived. Colonies were established on worlds that had been considered too dangerous for settlement. Trade routes opened through regions previously thought impassable. Medical advances added decades to the lifespans of every species. And through it all, humans remained human, still impatient, still aggressive, still impossible to predict, but also still caring, still determined to protect what they had built, still willing to die for their friends. A young Velthan scholar named Crixel II, grandson of the original Ambassador Crixel, wrote a famous analysis of the human integration period. His conclusion became one of the most quoted passages in galactic literature. "Earth was a death world," he wrote. "It produced a species forged in constant struggle, shaped by endless threats, hardened by unimaginable challenges. By all logic, such beings should have been pure destroyers, weapons given consciousness, monsters in human form. Instead, they became our greatest friends, our most reliable protectors, our partners in building a better galaxy. Because the same forces that made them dangerous also made them caring. They fight hard because they love hard. They refuse to surrender because they refuse to abandon those who need them." The galaxy feared humans when they first arrived. Some still fear them today, but that fear has become something else. Respect, admiration, trust. We know that when trouble comes, humans will be there. They will fight. They will never stop fighting, and somehow, against all odds, they will find a way to win. Earth was a death world, and humanity turned that into our greatest advantage. They took every terrible lesson their planet taught them and transformed it into something beautiful, something strong, something good. We are all safer because of them. We are all better because of them, and the galaxy will never be the same. The old Ambassador Crixel, now ancient but still sharp-minded, read his grandson's words and felt his scales shift to a bright, happy blue. He remembered his first meeting with Sarah Chen all those years ago, how frightened he had been, how uncertain. Now he understood what he had not understood then. Humans were not monsters, they were survivors, and survivors more than anyone else understood the value of life, the importance of protecting it, the need to make every day count. He looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were flying. Human soldiers were protecting colonies. Human doctors were saving lives. Human engineers were building wonders. Earth was a death world, and its children had become the guardians of the galaxy. The story was not over. It would never be over. Humans did not do endings. They just kept going, pushing forward, reaching for the next challenge. That was what Deathworld species did. And the galaxy was grateful for it every single day.